Hey everyone. So today I wanted to address something that's been on my mind um, quite a lot lately, and I'm sure it's on a lot of you guys' minds as well. And that is, why are our romantic relationships, most specifically, but more generally, why are our relationships so incredibly painful? Why all the turmoil? Why all the conflict in our relationships? Where does that come from? And secondly, how do we fix the problem? It should be pretty clear, I'm sure, to most of you out there that your relationships are a very important part of your life. I think that if we were to suddenly find ourselves as the last human being on this earth, you might think, well, that would be great, right? No more problems, because human beings pretty much cause most of our problems. But the truth of the matter is, your life would probably lose most of its meaning, and you might not even survive very long as the last remaining human being. That's my guess anyway. So how do we fix our relationships? Well, first of all, where does the conflict come from? And I'm going to give you a completely spiritual viewpoint here. There's a teaching called A Course in Miracles, which is a big part of my life and has been primary guide for this kind of thing. And A Course in Miracles talks a lot about relationships. And it draws a distinction between what it calls the special relationship, the special romantic relationship, and the holy relationship. So the special romantic relationship is basically, according to A Course in Miracles, it literally calls it a framework for conflict. And so where does the conflict come from? Well, from the purpose of that particular form of relationship. But what it's serving, the special relationship, what it's serving is as a device for conflict in order to, according to this teaching anyway, to avoid awakening. Simple as that. So the opposite of conflict is peace, of course. The interesting thing is conflict is really food for ego. It perpetuates the ego, and it's a classic device. And all we really need to do, from one perspective, is to learn just to be at peace, and that's it. If we could just learn to mentally, internally be at peace, we would automatically awaken. We would understand our true nature. So the thing with that is, we would, by default, see through ego, and the ego itself would begin to drop away and dissipate. So there is a ferocious attempt at the egoic level to maintain constant conflict. And our relationships are oftentimes the battlegrounds to maintain that state. So you may have noticed that in your relationships, a lot of times you feel like your partner is attacking you. Your partner is accusing you. Your partner is making you feel guilty. Your partner is making you feel unworthy. And the list goes on and on and on. And you may very well do the same thing back to your partner. Or perhaps you become just quietly resentful and passive-aggressive in all different kinds of ways. But either way, resentment and sacrifice and conflict are the hallmarks of the egoic relationship, the special relationship. So the flip side of that is what A Course in Miracles calls the holy relationship. Sometimes it refers to it as the healed relationship, if you prefer non-religious or non-spiritual terms. And the hallmarks of the spiritual relationship are the exact opposites. So the primary focus of spiritual relationships is on the unity between the two parties. So while two people appear to be very separate, those involved in a spiritual or awakened relationship will perceive the underlying unity, and it makes them happy. It's a state of being clear and ego-free, and there is no need to attack, there is no need to make your partner feel unworthy, In fact, you realize that being in a relationship is kind of like being in a little rowboat out on the ocean. Your entire survival and your livelihood depends on each other and on the stability of the boat, the vessel you're on. So to rock that boat, to cause each other pain and suffering, really you endanger your own existence and your own well-being. So that's recognized as the state of unity is accepted. And also, as a part of this, you have to realize that peace ultimately is an internal state. So, you can't look to your partner and expect them to be able to satisfy you and to gratify you and to behave in ways where you would prefer them to behave. So you accept them as they are. You stop trying to control them. You're not trying to project guilt on them or anger, which is really the same thing. So guilt is internalized anger, and the projection of guilt is anger itself. That's a topic for another video maybe. So what happens when we make that shift is we're taking responsibility for our own emotional state. If there are places where we feel unhappy, we realize that that ultimately is something that's within us and is our responsibility and not our partner's responsibility to correct. And the holy relationship focuses on helping each other to awaken. So it really becomes a very powerful partnership where your main focus is, and the main focus of the relationship in general is awakening each other and helping others to awaken as well. So a lot of times what happens with the spiritual relationship is there's an incredible boost in energy and in your abilities individually to help others to heal and to awaken. So you become an immensely more powerful person. And in fact, A Course in Miracles says that a holy relationship is a phenomenal teaching accomplishment. It is something that helps to awaken the entire population of humanity. So it is no small accomplishment. It is something very worth achieving. And how do we make that shift? Well, I think ultimately suffering is something that brings us to the crux of making the shift. We get to the point where we are just done with suffering, and we are done with feeling miserable, with feeling depressed, with experiencing anxiety, with all of the hatred. We're done with all of that, and we at some point become so fed up with it that we seize responsibility for our own emotional state. We realize that we have to take control of our mind. First and foremost, we can't control the world. We can't control other people. It's a simple fact. Even if your partner is great and perfect, you'll always find some other form of suffering. Something else will make you suffer. So, obviously you can't rely on the world to bring you peace, to bring you happiness, and to bring you the sort of sense of quietness that I think all of us on some level hope for in life and seek for in our relationships certainly as well. So suffering in this case can bring about the moment where you're just done and you finally seize responsibility for your emotional state and for the thought system that is creating it. And this becomes something that it was just it's a moment of change that then grows and expands and incorporates your relationship. One final point here is that this doesn't always mean that your relationship will heal. If you have a very rocky relationship, you may reach the point where you're ready to change and your partner is not. In that case, most of the time the relationship will likely dissolve. So it's a hard moment to accept, but if that does occur, and it probably happens more often than not, because people rarely reach those milestones at the same moment. It does happen, maybe as you drop the conflict and you become more present and more open, quieter, more reflective, self-reflective, Your partner may pick up on that and be ready for that shift himself or herself. But in a lot of cases, that does not happen. So if it doesn't happen, it's a time to just maintain your peace and just let whatever happens with the relationship happen. It will most likely dissolve, or perhaps it'll change forms. You'll become friends. And somewhere down the road, the universe will pair you up with somebody who is ready for a holy and healed relationship where you're partners and you're not using that partnership for egoic means, meaning to increase conflict, but it really becomes a beautiful, beautiful lesson in communion with each other and ultimately with your highest self.